So, Terry is here, and with him has come a balance patch. So I don't think many people were expecting a balance patch. I wasn't sure if we'd get changes or not. There has been balance changes. It's not like a full balance patch. It's like a fairly small one. So we're going to go through it. We're going to talk about the changes. I'm just going to say up front, I think this is a very weird balance patch. The short summary, if you just want the Cliff Notes version of this before we go into it, is that a few characters that got nerfed in the Season 2 patch got a bunch of, like, apology buffs in this version, even though they're not even bad. Like, the three that stick out to me is, like, Luke, JP, and DJ have all been given buffs, even though none of those characters are bad. And the stranger still aspect of it is that characters that are considered universally to be, like, the weakest ones, a lot of them are completely unchanged. So it's a very weird patch. Like, if you're a Marissa player, or if you're, like, an E Honda player, and you are thinking, today, finally, I'll get some buffs, I have some bad news for you guys. Luke instead swept in and took your buffs, I'm afraid. So, yeah, let's get into the actual details of this change. So, I'm gonna ignore anything that's just, like, bug fixes, unless it's, like, noteworthy. We're just gonna go over, like, the key important stuff. Okay, so this is, I think, the first important change here. So, after blocking a drive reversal, your throw hurt box is now massively expanded so that you can now punish drive reversals with throw. For some reason, the English translation page here says it only affects DJ, which is completely false. It's universal. Ignore this. So let me just show it in action. So yeah. Whenever you block a drive reversal, you can now punish with throw, and it'll be a punish counter throw as well. It even works from, like, it doesn't have to be point blank either. Like, even if you're spaced out a little bit, you still get the guaranteed throw punish. And this is useful for a few different reasons. The main one is if your character does not have a 6-frame medium, this is, like, important. Because drive reversal is -6 on block, and if your character doesn't have a 6-frame medium or a 5-frame medium, if your fastest medium is 7 frames or more, there's kind of been a trend of these characters having, like, shit punishes on drive reversal. Like, Dalsim's a good example. Up until now, this was Dalsim's max damage punish, like, meterless punish on a drive reversal. That. 1470 damage. You get light to medium and then a special, which is pretty appalling. So, like, I think Capcom, to kind of, like, solve this disparity in drive reversal punishes, they've added this now. So this punish does, what, 2040 damage? So for characters without access to a 6-frame medium, this does give them a little bit of a boost to their drive reversal punish game. But even still, just my own personal opinion, I still feel like drive reversal needs more changes, because even with this upgrade for, like, Dalsim's punish here, the difference between characters is still kind of appalling. As a comparison, let's say Dalsim blocks a drive reversal in the corner and goes for, like, a combo with, like, 1EX. This is what you get. That still did less than 2000 damage. You can actually, that's slightly better. You can just about, like, in the corner, you can just about break 2000 damage with Dalsim. But, like, if you compare that to a certain demonic character, yeah, 4030 damage for 1EX. I still feel like it's not enough. I think if it was up to me, I think drive reversals should be -4 on block, so that every character in the game has to start the punish with a jab. I don't like this, like, dichotomy between, like, are you privileged enough to have a 6-frame medium or not? But anyway, that's just my opinion. Let's move on. Yeah, that's the only universal change that I think's worth mentioning, so let's go into the character-specific stuff now. So we'll start with Luke. So Luke is one of the winners of this patch, weirdly. They even write a little paragraph here, talking about how the nerfs in the Season 2 patch, like, that had a greater impact on his offensive capabilities than anticipated. Like, damn, we accidentally made Luke balanced. We gotta fix that ASAP. So Luke has buffs for some reason. So Crouch Light Punch has reduced pushback on hit and reduced pushback on block, and the same is true of Crouching Light Kick. And this is actually a pretty good buff, these two combined. Especially when you combine with this, crouch medium punch has reduced pushback on hit. So let me show you an example of how this actually matters. One of the most common ways of approaching with Luke is drive rush crouch medium punch. You know, it's fast, it's got a good hitbox, it's a good combo starter, it's pretty damn plus on block. I think it's like +5 on block. Now, if you blocked this thing previously, he couldn't do a light confirm afterwards. But now, he can do crouch light kick, crouch light punch after this. This was not possible previously. Like, if the opponent walked back, they would not get hit by both lights. So now he can actually trap you low after drive rush crouch medium punch, which is really good for like pressure strings and stuff. Because a lot of the time people will try and walk backwards to get out of the throw mix-up. They'll try and step out of it. But now he can actually lock you down low. So yeah, that's a change. Oh yeah, and his light, medium, heavy target combo also does more damage. This thing does a little bit more. They also said his back heavy kick now has increased inertia out of drive rush. I'm not really sure about this one. This seems like a kind of quality of life thing. I think it makes a couple of his combos a little bit more consistent. But yeah, that one doesn't really make much of a difference. But I mean, they're not huge buffs. Don't get me wrong. It's not like we're dealing with Season 1 Luke again. But I'm just kind of questioning, like, why? Capcom does what Capcom does. So Jamie got nothing. That's just a bug fix. If anything, that's a nerf. Jamie got nerfed because apparently there was a bug where his super did slightly more damage on counter hit that's not supposed to. So technically, Jamie got nerfed. Manon got nothing. Kimberly did actually get a buff. It's a small buff, but it is a buff. This is not too bad. So Kimberly's bomb, the spray can bombs, when used in combos, now don't scale the combo as severely. Alright, I haven't played this character in a long time, so I have no idea what the optimal combos are for her anymore. But I can tell you this much, this is doing a bit more damage than it used to. I know that much is true. Because the spray can just adds less to the combo scaling. Marissa got nothing. Just a bug fix. Lily literally got nothing. Can't even click on her name. There's no bug fixes or anything. JP, on the other hand, might be the biggest winner of this entire update. I wouldn't have... If you'd asked me to bet on a character who has got the most buffs of any character, I actually think JP was the winner here. Again, it's the same kind of like summary as they gave last time where they're talking about how they feel like they overdid it with the nerfs. So, yeah, JP buffs. Let's go. He got quite a few. So up first, his stand medium kick is now +3 on hit. And the reason this is good is mainly for his level 2 combos. So JP's stand medium kick is a really good normal. This has great range and it's special cancelable. Good hitbox, good buffer. So because it's now +3, if you activate level 2 off this thing, you can now link into crouch medium kick. You didn't used to be able to really pick up a combo off this before, because it wasn't plus enough and lights don't reach. But now he can do stand medium kick into crouch medium kick and then go into the full combo. That's a pretty noticeable buff, honestly. Here we go. So crouching heavy punch. Added anti-air invincibility to the arm hurt box from the attack's second active frame until the end of the active frames. So they've not entirely, but like 99% reverted his crouch heavy punch anti-air to how it used to be in Season 1 before it got nerfed. So this went from being the god of anti-air normals to being kind of inconsistent. And now it's pretty much back to being the god of anti-air normals. It was frame 1, air invincibility. Now it's frame 2, so it is like fractionally worse than it was in Season 1, but for all intents and purposes, this is now back to being a god anti-air. You guys missed Season 1. We're back, baby. It just doesn't lose anymore. It either counter hits out as startup or punish count as the recovery. There's no middle ground. It just works. Hits from far, like even far out. Anti-cross up. I was expecting this to get like maybe a couple of buffs. But I wasn't expecting them to basically just revert it to pretty much being the Season 1 version. Okay, so you just straight up can't jump on JP again. All right. For a character whose whole game plan is to try and zone you out, his anti-air going back to being 100% reliable is a huge buff. We're not done yet. There's still loads more. So his forward heavy kick has had its combo ability improved. So this is also kind of a Season 1 reversion, technically. And this basically means that all of the combos that he lost in Season 2, where he would juggle off portals, are now back. So, like, for example, anytime you used to pick up a combo of portals, he now gets that double hitting stand heavy kick again, or forward heavy kick, sorry. This was nerfed, and now it's back. So again, in that sense, this is basically just a reversion back to Season 1. The only thing to mention that's like slightly worse than Season 1 is because of the way that they've changed this, he does not have his double DI combo back. Yeah, that's not back. Thank God. That's the only thing he's missing from like the Season 1 broken toolkit. He doesn't have the double DI. Strybog expanded the hitbox for the second attack only when the first attack hits. Okay, so that's just like a consistency improvement. Not much to say there. Torbalan removed the projectile collision hitbox that remained after the attack's active frames. Again, just seems like a quality of life thing. And Embrace changed immediate scaling 25% to 10%. So this is a small buff. I think this just means that if you combo into his command grab, it doesn't scale quite as hard, but there's almost no situations where you'd want to do that anyway. If you wanted to combo into command grab for whatever reason, probably after a stun, the command grab does slightly more damage now. But like, all in all, I'm shocked at this. I wasn't expecting JP to get a lot of buffs, but here we are. What a time to be alive. Yeah, I have zero idea what Capcom is cooking with this one. But anyway, we're moving on. Jury got nothing. Yeah, so we're on DJ now. DJ is the final of the 3 characters that Capcom obviously felt they'd over-nerfed for whatever reason. So he also got quite a few buffs. I don't think DJs are as good as the other 2 though. I don't think they're quite as good buffs as Luke and JP, but he still buffed him. So they buffed his back heavy kicks just to fix a few issues with the attack coming out the wrong way. So this is like a bug fix. I wouldn't worry about this one. But they also buffed one of his target combos. So this is light punch, medium kick. This is a very rarely seen target combo because it's not very good. Damage isn't very good. Doesn't knock down. Doesn't really lead to much. So they have buffed this, and now it leaves DJ in throw range afterwards. So at the end of this target combo, he's +3 and point blank. So now he can actually threaten a throw afterwards. He used to be too far away to do that. So you could potentially end like a jab string with this. Like you could just do like something like that and then go for a throw mix-up. It's also +3, which is good for DJ because that means that you can like go for a trade combo as well. So if your opponent tries to mash on your plus frames, you can make them regret it pretty heavily. So that's a small buff. I'm not sure you'll see this target combo that much, even with this change, to be honest. I'd expect most DJ players will probably just stick with, like, a knockdown into Sobat, and then go for, like, Drive Rush Oki. This will probably still be the default DJ thing. But you might see it more now. It's gone from being pretty useless to pretty decent. So they slightly increased the downwards hitbox on his Jackknife Maximum, the up kicks. But that's mostly just to cover a few like edge cases here, so mostly just a bug fix that one. And this is kind of the main buff that DJ got here. So they buffed his sway overhead, and this move used to knock down on hit, but now on punish counter it ground bounces. So this thing, if you try and press a button while DJ is swaying now, this thing now ground bounces on punish counter. And I believe, even at max range, he can always pick up a combo into, like, Sobat. Yeah. And you can also do like, supers and stuff as well. Yeah, I think it's also, that's a good point. I think this is also, like, an option that you can do against people tap parrying. Like, if you tap parry, assuming they're going to do sway low, then you're stuck in crouch recovery, and this will punish counter. Yeah, if you're up close, you get more. I think you might even be able to, if you do this in the corner, you might even be able to get, what's it called? EX Just Cool. Yep. I don't know, I'll leave that one to the lab monsters. But, yeah. Full combo in the corner, but that is point blank only. But yeah, this is good, honestly. Any situation that goes from being just like a knockdown into a combo starter is always a nice upgrade to have. And this one I didn't really understand. So they've made the same change to his OD overhead. So you also get the ground bounce, like that, on the EX Just Cool. But the thing about this one is that the juggle state afterwards is fucking horrible. And you can't go into, like, any specials as far as I can tell. Yeah, I guess there's no extra drive needed. So I guess if you're, like, close to burnout after the launcher, then, and you want to go into, like, level 1, then you get more if you go for the ground bounce. Yeah, okay. But I think the more interesting one is the punish counter on the regular overhead. Okay, and this was the last buff. You may have seen it in those previous clips. So his level 1 super, when you hit with this thing, it used to put the opponent in like a spinning knockdown, but now it puts them in a sliding grounded knockdown. And I guess it's more combo friendly. But to be honest, I didn't know any situations where it didn't juggle. But this is good. So now he gets, like, I think much better Oki off his level 1. Yeah. You don't even need to spend Drive Rush. You can just dash up. Anyway, let's move on. Cammy got no changes, which makes me sad. I was hoping to see a 25 page list of Cammy nerfs. Ryu got nothing. Honda got basically nothing. Blanca got nothing. Guile actually got nerfed surprisingly severely with one single change. Honestly, I would say Guile is probably the second most nerfed character in this patch. And I say second because one character definitely was the target of this update. We'll get to them in a minute. But Guile is probably the second most nerfed character. So they've nerfed Sonic Boom and made it so that the light and heavy versions of Sonic Boom have their super meter build halved. It used to be 600, now it's 300. So you get half as much super per boom. The medium version was also nerfed, but not quite as severely, from 600 to 450 super meter gain. And this is probably the most important one. The drive gauge gain has been halved as well, from 1000 to 500. And this is pretty noticeable because, like, one of the reasons why Guile is so fucking strong in this game is because he can, like, spend a shitload of drive and then just play lame for the next, like, 10 seconds. Like, that's Guile's game plan in this game. He can just, like, recharge his drive gauge by just sitting back and going Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, until his drive gauge comes back. And it'll take him significantly longer now. So it's more risky for Guile to now, like, overextend with drive and then just play Runaway for the next 15 seconds. Honestly, like, this is a pretty significant nerf, all things considered. It's not the kind of thing that you would notice, like, maybe moment-to-moment gameplay, but this actually is a pretty big deal. It's the only change in his list, and it's fairly severe. Ken had no changes. Again, Capcom, please. Chun-Li, so I looked at this one earlier. I think this is mostly just like a bug fix. So they say that the heavy version of her uppercut has increased knockdown when the first attack hits. Does this just mean that if you get one of those buggy anti-airs where, like, the first hit connects but then the rest whiffs, that you're not punishable on hit? Oh, okay, so this is just a quality of life thing. This is basically just a bug fix. Alright, so that's basically nothing. Now, Zangief. If Guile is the second biggest loser of the patch, this man right here is the biggest loser. Now, don't get me wrong. I want to say this up front. When I say biggest loser of the patch, I don't mean that Geef is bad now. Let me put that out of the way right up front. All I'm saying is that in terms of the sheer amount and quantity of nerfs, Zangief has had the most here. Most nerfed does not mean bad. But anyway. So, knee hammer, forward medium kick, changed recovery on block from -3 to -4. I don't think anyone's surprised by this, honestly. In the last version, in the Season 2 patch, they made this normal absolutely, like, bonkers. And the reason this was so obnoxious is because it was physically impossible for this thing to be misspaced to the point that it was punishable. So, like, even if you were a Geef player and you completely fucked up and you did this thing like point blank, it was still safe. It was -3. And you were in an annoying situation because like the Geef player would mess up, misspace their knee, and then perfect parry, and you would die. Now, it is actually possible for this to be punishable once again. If he misspaces it, it's -4, and you can jab punish. Like that. That also is important for the drive rush situation. Because now, if he does point blank drive rush knee, it's 0 on block. And again, in the last version, this was +1. So like, before this change, Geef was always plus after drive rush knee. No matter how badly he misspaced it, it was always plus. But now it can be 0. So you can just jab here if they do it point blank and take the trade and then just like get out of the situation. It will be a trade though. You won't counter hit him. As with everything, it's still possible for Geef to like make this thing plus by spacing it. So it is still a good normal. It hops over lows and stuff, and like it can be very plus if you drive rush it from distance. So it's still a good normal. It's just not quite as brain dead as it was until now. But this is the more severe change. Headbutt, forward heavy punch. Added 25% initial scaling. Changed combo scaling from 10 to 20%. Changed advantage on hit from +7 to +8. This is a pretty severe nerf. They made this link possible this season. The forward heavy punch into the hell stab. And if you got hit by this thing, trying to jump out of an SPD, you just exploded. Now this thing scales the shit out of a combo. So like... now this combo barely breaks 3k. I think this was probably like 4k. I don't know the exact numbers last season. But that does pretty significantly less damage in most situations. They did do one sort of compensatory buff. So this is now a combo. He can now link forward heavy punch into crouch medium punch, which I don't really understand why you would want to do this. Is there any Geef players that knows why you'd want to do this? Because this does less damage than hell stab. People complain about level 2. Oh, it's just... oh, okay, so it's just to make the level 2 cancel easier? Is that it? So Itazan can't fail anymore? I mean, I guess this is easier than doing hell stab into level 2, but honestly, hell stab into level 2 is not hard. You guys are all just babies. Was there something else with Geef? I feel like I forgot something. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention while I was talking about the knee, the hurt box on the knee is now bigger. And I think this is actually also a pretty big nerf because a lot of the time, Geef players will do like a spacing trap after lights. So like you'll see Geef players do stuff like this. And then, like, after they space themselves out with a few lights, they'll get back in with the forward medium kick. And a lot of the time, it's actually really hard to intercept this thing. Because the hop kick had, like, a really weird, small hurt box in front of him. Yeah. So you can't try and, like, force your way back in and just bypass the normal. His hurt box is, like, noticeably bigger here. So I think that's a pretty big nerf as well. Dalsim. Dalsim is a character that didn't receive many changes during the overall balance adjustments. We've gone and made more changes to him. When I read this, I was like, oh damn, they're gonna give Dalsim a bunch of buffs. But then I actually read the list. It looked good. Like I saw like fucking a page and a half of Dalsim buffs and I was like, holy shit. Is this the Dalsim season? But actually having looked through it, I'm not really seeing the vision, if I'm being honest. There's a lot of changes here, but they don't seem to make that much of a difference. And one of them seems like a gimmick, but we'll get there. Stand medium punch is now 0 on hit from -2. I didn't even know it was -2 on hit. This whole time I could have been taking my turn after getting hit by medium punch, I guess. Don't think it changes much though. It's just like a small buff. Standing heavy kick changed advantage on punish counter from +21 to +24. Does that change anything? Okay, I understand now. So I think this is the idea. I think it's drive rush punish counter stand heavy kick from full screen and Fiber Wars. You can now get full screen combos of this because you're +7 after the teleport. There we go. So I guess in like hard countering fireball reads, that's actually not that bad of a change. So you do get an actual combo of like full screen drive rush heavy kick. That's not too bad actually. Okay, that's better than I thought it was. I can see the utility of that. Jump medium punch will not be hit from behind by cross-up normals. Quality of life. Down back heavy punch. Reduce the knockback distance from a mid-air hit. Ah, okay. So I'm told that this I'm taking instructions from the Dowsim community in chat here. This does give him some new combo options. Okay. That's a bug fix. And then here's the one that I'm not sure what Capcom's cooking, the final change. So Dowsim's level 1 has been buffed in a strange way. So it now does a shitload of gray damage on block, and it's also significantly safer as well. So it's gone from -15 to -10. And it also does 792 gray damage. I guess they're trying to make it like his V-Trigger 1 from Street Fighter 5. This is a weird change. Look at Ken's health after blocking this. It's almost like fake chip damage, because this game doesn't have chip damage traditionally outside of Burnout. So I guess they're trying to sort of imitate the VT1 effect for him in Burnout. But I mean, the thing is, it already did chip damage in Burnout, so I don't think that's changed. Yeah, I think that's basically the same as it always was. A little bit of extra gray damage. I think probably my best guess as to the main usage of this is that, like, it makes it easier for Dowsim to just do something like this in neutral. So, like, for example, if your opponent's, like, at this distance and you've got some super to waste, you don't really care about storing up 3 bars or whatever, you can just fish for, like, crouch medium punch level 1, because if it's blocked, it now does a chunk of gray damage, and you're only -10. And it's worth mentioning that, like, at this distance here, there are very few characters in the game that can punish a -10 from here. It's kind of like the change they made to DJ's level 1. Safe if spaced. But I still don't know if this is going to be worth using. Like, the thing about this game is that super meter is such an insanely, like, important resource that dropping 1 bar to get a bit of gray damage probably isn't worth just saving up for level 3. It's a cute idea. I just don't know if it's going to be useful. What if you can do 2 level 1s back to back? Hang on, I just had an idea. What if I can do... You do like a hard knockdown and then do like this? How much gray damage does this do? Alright, I'm saving a state there. Block all. God damn, look at the gray damage. Alright, I'm finding Dowsim tech on the fly. Maybe there's a way to set up double level 1 for maximum gray damage. Alright, I don't know if that's useful, but it's a fun little idea for it. Rashid. Now, I was kind of hoping that when I opened Rashid's change list, I'd see like 15 changes to his level 2, and instead I saw no changes to his level 2. So, yeah, cool. Nice. They've nerfed his crouch light punch. There's a whole, like, essay up here about how crouch light punch was an unintentionally good anti-air, even though I've never once in my entire life seen anyone anti-air with his crouch jab. So yeah, Rashid is basically untouched, effectively. None of this really matters. Aki. So Aki got 1 change, and it's listed as a bug fix, but I'm actually going to talk about this one because this is actually a buff. It's not a big buff, so it's a fairly small buff, but it is actually useful. And the fact that she didn't get nerfed is also good news. So Aki had a kind of weird thing on punish counter Toxic Blossom EX Serpent Lash, which is a long-ass sentence to describe one move. This thing right here. So basically, this move was weird because generally across Aki's kit, in 99.9% of the situations, she's designed in a way where you're supposed to get better combos if your opponent is already poisoned. Like, that's how she works. You're supposed to poison the opponent, and your reward for doing that is you get better combos once they're poisoned. But there was one weird exception to that, which was this. So, if you hit the EX chain on an unpoisoned opponent, you would get punish counter advantage. So this would go from being +4 up to +8. You do get the bonus there. But it was weird because the punish counter boost did not apply if they were already poisoned. So if they were poisoned, you would get this, and then they would crumple, and there was no benefit to it. So before this update, on punish counter, if they were unpoisoned, this combo does about 2,800 damage before the poison kicks in. And if they were poisoned, you only got this, which does 2,500. So like previously, you actually got a worse combo on a poisoned opponent because there was no benefit to the punish counter. But now, thankfully, Capcom seems to have realized that that's a strange way to do things. You now do actually get punish counter advantage on this. And the heavy kick will keep them grounded. Like this heavy kick here, before the update, would launch them. But now it hits grounded, which means you can do stuff like this. So that's like over 3,000 damage now. So an example of like where this is useful, let's say, is let's say your opponent is already poisoned and they throw out a fireball. If I read that fireball and go for EX Serpent Lash, I now get this at a minimum, which is a pretty nice upgrade. You can do all sorts of stuff. If you want to style on your opponent, you can do stuff like that. So yeah, it's quite a specific situation, but it is definitely useful to know. Okay, Ed. Ed is another strange character to buff. This is another odd one. I think a lot of people think Ed is one of the strongest characters right now. So they've given him one nerf. They've nerfed his level 2 a little bit. We'll get to that. But they gave him a lot of buffs to compensate, which is strange. So Ed's stand heavy kick is now +4 on block. But yeah, this is now +4. It was +3. This doesn't make that much of a difference because basically with being +4 means that if you press stand medium punch after this thing, Ed will now get a counter hit. So like this. That will now counter hit. This used to trade. But the thing was, this was a good trade for Ed to take anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much. He used to get a trade combo off this, and now he just gets a clean counter hit, but the overall effect is basically the same. And I mean, the other thing about stand heavy kick is it's still kind of a finicky normal to use because this thing does not hit crouching characters. So if you're crouching, he can't use this as a pressure tool. So that limits its viability pretty severely. And before someone says, actually, yes, I know, he can set up a fuzzy with it by doing stuff like this. I know about that. I know he can do fuzzy stand heavy kick to force it to hit crouches in certain safe jumps. But that's pretty limited in usefulness. So, yeah. I don't think that change from +3 to +4 makes that much of a difference. It gives him a trade combo into crouch medium punch now, but Jump heavy punch got an extra active frame, which, whatever. And now jumping heavy kick has increased blowback time from a mid-air hit, and also causes Ed to like recover faster and hit the ground quicker. So Ed's jumping heavy kick is one of those air-to-airs that gives you a launch on hit. It wasn't that useful previously because it had this like really sharp upwards angle, and it tended to launch the opponents in a really awkward way. A lot of the time you would hit the ground too quickly and you wouldn't get much off it, but now he gets like super easy juggles off this thing. Like you can see there, like even if I anti-air on the way up, like if I press instant jump heavy kick here, I still get light DP after. This is actually a really good buff. If you've got good reactions and you can consistently air-to-air with a jump, this is actually really nice. Very underrated buff. Psycho Blitz added pushback on block for Ed when attack is blocked near the corner. It doesn't really matter, it's still punishable. Psycho Flicker Light, which is written as quarter circle forward light punch, but I don't think they mean that. I assume they mean flicker, which is light kick. Extended the follow-up attack window on punish counter by 1 frame. So on punish counter this crumples, and they say that you get like 1 frame extra. It just makes drive rush heavy punch slightly more reliable. Okay. So I guess this was pretty tight before. Getting the drive rush fierce here. But it feels pretty easy now. Alright, so this is the nerf that they added to compensate for all his buffs. I think everyone was expecting this. Ed's level 2 now nerfs his super gain when you go for the dream combo. But the amount they've nerfed it by is actually not very much. So his super art gain is fixed at 80% until the combo ends. And when I first read this, I thought it said it was reduced by 80%, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It's only been reduced by 20%, which is not that big of a deal. Like, let me just... I think this should still build, like, at least half a bar of super if you go for the silly combo stuff. There we go. So I don't know like the super optimal stuff. That's the basic one that I use. And that still built half a bar of super. We're at 1.5 bars right now, so that's still really good. I don't think that's gonna like change many ed players' decision making. You spend 2 bars for the super and you get 50% of a bar back. I think you're still gonna see a lot of ed players go for the dream combo. Yeah, I think previously it was what, like 80% of a bar? Now it's down to 50%. The drive gauge is untouched, so he got off real light with that combo, honestly. I think you're still going to see Momochi land that thing, like, every single round, to be honest. Akuma, unfortunately, regrettably, no changes. Well, I mean, he got a bug fix. He can no longer throw his level 1 super when a fireball is on the screen, which is a tiny slap on the wrist. So he did used to be able to, like, throw a fireball and then do level 1. If you jumped over it, he could, like, anti-air from full screen, and he can't anymore. You get DP instead. That doesn't matter. I'm sorry, that's not changing anything. Alright, and finally, M. Bipson. One of the most baffling changes I've ever seen in my life. So, when I was reading this, I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. But then, the deeper I went into these changes, the more I lost my mind. So it says, for his double knee press, opponents were able to move first after blocking the attack, but the opponents were also pushed out, meaning that Bison was often at an advantage. This situation was hard for players to grasp, which led to many situations where Bison could keep on the offensive. We've reduced the pushback on block, so it's more difficult for Bison to continue his pressure. So I and everyone with a brain assumed this meant the obvious, that all they've done is make Scissors have less pushback on block. That's not what they've done. It's a very strange set of changes here. So I guess up front, we'll cover this one first. They slightly nerfed the hitbox on his drive reversal. The double foot kick used to go extremely far. Now it's slightly shorter, but yeah, not a big deal. So I'm actually going to jump straight. I'm going to ignore all of this stuff because it's just bug fixes. I'm going to go straight to the change to Scissors. So what they've done, bafflingly, to this thing is they've made it so that Scissors does less pushback on block, but they have also reduced the size of Bison's hurt box on block, and the net effect is that it is exactly the same as it is right now, basically. So even though Bison is slightly closer to you, his hurt box is slightly smaller, so it's no more punishable than it used to be. So when I was reading this, I was like, what in God's name are they doing? Like, why are they taking 1 step forward, 1 step back? And I think I know the reason for this. It's not very well communicated from the balance patch, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and try and guess what Capcom is cooking. So, I think the reasoning for this change, fake nerf, is not to make it any less spammable in neutral. I think in terms of like just throwing out Scissors, I think it's almost exactly the same as it was before. The idea here is that when you do actually get the punish, like when you are in range to punish Scissors now, Bison will be slightly closer to you, and that means that your combos are less likely to drop, because there was an issue before where even if you were in range to punish the Scissors, Bison was so far away that you would get your like 5-frame punish, like Akuma stand light kick, for example, but then you couldn't do much afterwards because your follow-up would whiff. You'd get like stand light kick and then Tatsu would whiff. Stuff like that was very common. Now it's very consistent. As long as you're in range to punish, you now actually get the right follow-up after the special cancel. I think that's the change. So it's still very hard to punish it, but if you played a character who could press a light, but then the special cancel whiffed, it should work now. But that's a very small nerf. Like, for example, another example I'll show you, like with Aki. Aki used to have a similar problem where you would block light Scissors, and then EX chain would drop. Like this was inconsistent before. This punish. Now this always works from every single range. So I don't have to worry about like wasting 2 bars of super. As long as I'm in range to punish, that will always work now. So yeah, they have very slightly nerfed Scissors, but it's not to make it easier to punish. It's so that your punish combo is less likely to drop. That's the change, I think. I think, as far as I can tell, Bison has got away with murder right here. It's still going to be an extremely degenerate move to just spam in neutral. Bug fix, bug fix. Okay, I think the rest of it is all just bug fixes. And that's the last character. So yeah, very weird patch. Honestly, the fact that characters like Honda and Marissa and Lily got nothing is strange. The fact that the strongest characters in the game, like Akuma and Rashid, got no nerfs is strange. The big losers of the patch is like Guile and Zangief, and the big winners are like Luke, JP, and DJ. I don't know what Capcom's cooking with this one. Season 1, welcome back. It is what it is. I'm just here to report the news, folks. I can't comment as to the thought process behind it, but yeah, well, I don't know what Capcom's doing here. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. If your character got buffed or nerfed, how you feel about it. And I will catch you guys in the next video.